Let's talk about the transport of water and minerals in plants. As we all know that plants are stationary. But then how do they get their water and mineral nutritions? Here we can see the water and the mineral are taken up by the roots in plants. We can see the arrows in the direction how they travel upwards through the soil into the stem, then the leaf, and the water is then transpired out through the leaf. Water is one of the most important constituents of the protoplasm. It makes up of 80 to 90% of the fresh weight of most herbaceous plants and over 50% of the fresh weight of the woody plants. Acts as a solvent in which the gases, minerals and other solutes enter the plant cells and move from cell to cell and from organ to organ. Water taken up by the root has to reach all the parts of the plant up to the top of the growing stem. Here we can see as the water enters through the roots into the stem by the suction pressure of the capillary pressure, the water is lost by transpiration. The food synthesized by the leaves also have to be moved to all the parts of the plant, including the root tip. Short distance movements include movement across the membrane, movement within the cell, and the cell to cell movement. Water also acts as a reactant or a reagent in many important processes such as hydrolysis of starch to sugar. Water maintains the turgidity, which is essential for the cell enlargement, the growth, and for maintaining the form of herbaceous plants. Turgor pressure is also important in the opening and closing of stomata, movement of leaves, flower petals, and various specialized plant structure. Water is needed for the hydration of protoplasm, in the mobility of gametes and dehiscence of fruits. Here we can see the turgor pressure which is required for the opening and closing of stomata and movement of leaves. Here we can see the opening and closing of stomata, the guard cells, the chloroplast. This is the open stomata. Water diffuses into the guard cells which causes them to open. On hot or dry days, the guard cells have less water. They relax. And what happens? The stomata closes. And here we can see how the minerals flow from the root into the stem and then into the leaves and the buds. Here, the sugar solution flows to regions of low turgor pressure, enters the sieve tubes with the high turgor pressure, and water movement is by osmosis. The sugar leaves the sieve tubes for metabolism and storage, and water follows behind by osmosis. Transport in plants over small distances is through diffusion and the cytoplasm, while transport over long distances is through the vascular system. We all know the vascular system comprises of the xylem and the phloem in plants, which is known as the translocation. 90% of the water that enters a plant is lost via transpiration, that is, the loss of water vapor through the leaves. 5% of the water entering the plant is lost through the cuticle. Water plays a very important role in the plant life. for the turgor pressure and other cellular activities. And the internal temperature of the plant is also regulated by water. The xylem pathways go from the smallest part of the youngest roots all the way up to the plant and out to the tip of the smallest and the newest leaf. That is, the water is transported from the root to the tip of the plant. This internal plumbing system paired with phloem and its nutrient transportation system maintains what? It maintains the water needs and the resources in the plant. If even a small part of the plant is devoid of this particular system, then that part dries up and eventually we see that the whole plant is drying up. The cohesion tension theory demonstrates that the water transport through columns goes up to great heights. Diffusion is the net movement of molecules or ions from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration due to its kinetic energy until the molecules are evenly distributed throughout the available space. Each substrate molecule diffuses according to its own concentration gradient, that is, concentration difference per unit distance. The molecules or ions are said to be moving along a diffusion gradient. If the molecules or ions moving in the opposite direction, they are said to be moving against a diffusion gradient. Now let's talk about the transpiration in plants. As we all know that the water is moving through the roots and into the stem through the capillary pressure and the suction pressure we have already discussed before, and then the water is, where is it going? It's going out through the leaves, and transpiration, do you know, takes place in the morning and in the presence of sunlight. So usually it is said that we should water the plants at night when the rate of transpiration is low, and that is why the plants dry up very soon during summers, because the rate of transpiration is more in summers than in winters. See the process carefully, that the water is moving through the roots into the stem and out from the leaves in the presence of sunlight.